Friday Reads! This is my third attempt at filming this video. And this is also my first ever Friday Reads. So welcome. Here in Australia, the seasons are turning. We're heading into real autumn, winter weather. So this calls for lots of reading jumpers, mulled wine, and it's a long weekend. So heading off to the beach for a couple of days of walks and reading. So without further ado, let's get into what's on my TBR for this weekend. So I'll start with the non-fiction, and this week it just so happens to be two Russia-themed books. Surprise, surprise. So first of all, we have Robert Service's new book, The Last of the Tsars, and I picked this up at the library 2 days ago and just started reading it on the train home. And I'm loving it. I feel like this book is a really important corrective for me to my lack of understanding in this chapter of Russian revolutionary history. I am ashamed to say that the execution of the Tsar and his family has been somewhat minimized in my teaching of the Russian Revolution as merely a footnote. So I'm hoping that this will really enrich my understanding. So far, I think Robert Service has done an amazing job of presenting a very humanized, multifaceted perspective of Nicholas, and is a very important antidote to the romanticization of the Romanov family in Western culture. Next up, we have Bolshoi Confidential. I've actually been eyeing this off for about 6 months, and I just happened to see it at the library when I was picking up Last of the Tsars, so of course I couldn't walk past this. Probably my love of ballet began even before my love of the Russian arts and literature. So the Bolshoi ballet came out to Australia when I was 7 years old, to Melbourne, Australia, and I think that's partly responsible for both my love of ballet and all things Russian. When I was in Moscow on my research trip for my PhD, my one splurge was going to the Bolshoi Ballet in Moscow, and it's one of my very favourite memories of that trip. Other than the blurb at the start, which caught my eye, and the beautiful cover, and my own experiences of seeing the Bolshoi Ballet, both Swan Lake when I was 7 years old and then 27. I really don't know much about the contents of this book, so it's going to be a bit of a surprise, and I'm really looking forward to it. So on to my fiction, and why not start with our Russia-themed fiction to just keep the tradition going. The first book I have started is A Gentleman in Moscow. Now this is really gripped me, and I'm only 25 pages in, so I literally just started this. So the context is the post-Bolshevik revolution, and Count Alexander Rostov, an aristocrat, is condemned by the current new regime, and although being spared execution, is condemned to live basically in a closet in the Hotel Metropole in Moscow. So they've included, the author Amor Towles has included what appears to be genuine historical documents from the trial of this Count Rostov. I'm not 100% sure to what extent this novel is based on historical fact, and I'm resisting the urge to investigate this until I've finished the book, because I don't want to spoil anything for myself. But I'm loving the style of writing and everything about this novel set in 1922 in Moscow. So last Russia book for this weekend, 40 Rooms by Olga Grushin and her experiences as an expat in the West. Other than that, I don't know much about this, but because it is a contemporary Russian release, and I don't read that much contemporary Russian fiction, surprisingly, it's mainly non-fiction, I'm super keen to get into this. My battery's about to run out, so I've got to be really quick. This is the third time I filmed this. Finally, I'm going to read The White Tiger by Aravind Adiga, because I have to, but also because I want to. I'm tutoring an English student who's got this as his Year 12 text, which is equivalent of A-levels. It is a dark comedy that is highly critical of the caste system and the corruption that exists in India. I think it was, yes, the winner of the Man Booker Prize in 2008. I'm really enjoying it so far and can't wait to finish. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Sorry, this is the rush. My battery is about to die. Bye.